Welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and these are the best commanders from Phyrexia. All will be one, in my humble opinion. And this was kind of a tough one to do. We had a really interesting mix of commanders here, and as I've already gone on record stating, some of them I wasn't super impressed with because I thought the design was a little too generic and maybe even lazy. I realized this set was not made for Commander. That's fine. I don't think we need a ton of new great commanders for the format. I will say though, if you're making 30 legendary creatures from a standard set, clearly you are doing that to target the commander players, right? There used to be like 3 or 4 legendary creatures in a standard set. Now we're doing 10 times as many. And I think we know the reason why, right? So when they're designing these legendary creatures in these standard sets, obviously they're doing so because they want commander players to go after them. There really is a lot to talk about here, and I guess it sort of goes into a broader topic, so I will try not to go too much into it. But looking at the commanders from this set, basically what I had to do is divide them into 2 different categories. Those categories being the commanders that I feel are like just generically good or are very archetype specific and also generically good, to me, are going to be in the 99 of a ton of decks. They're going to be in the 99 of decks way more than they are as commanders. For me, that's a bit of a signifier of a commander that is not a great design. If it's going to be in way more decks, then it's going to be the commander of decks. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, and there is a lot of commanders from this set that I think will go in way more 99 of decks than they will be as commanders. I don't think that's a great thing because, of course, you're going to be seeing them as commanders all the time, but you're also going to be seeing in the 99 of decks all the time. So you're going to be seeing them all over the place in the format. Obviously, if you have a card that is doing the exact same thing in your deck already, you're probably going to want to include that commander version as well, right? If you have an Anointed Procession in your deck because you're creating tokens, well, I would imagine you probably want to include a Mondrak in that deck as well because it's essentially doing the same thing. It's just a legendary creature, right? So why wouldn't you slot it in there? It's just giving you another option. If you're in a deck that has Panharmonicon and is white, you're probably going to want to put the new Elishnorn in there as well because it's an even better version. It's giving you that Panharmonicon effect and then the Torpor Orb effect for your opponents as well. So there is a ton of commanders from this set that I think are going to be going in the 99 decks and probably will be popular commanders as well, but I just don't love the design. One thing that I would love for them to stop doing, which they've been doing a ton lately, and especially here, is this thing happens in additional time, right? That's a phrase that I would actually like to see less. If this thing happens, it happens in additional time. All of those commanders I will not be including on my best of list, even though they are going to be popular and some of them are really, really powerful. I will give sort of an honorable mention though to Atraxa Grand Unifier, which is, I guess, fitting that theme. 3 green, white, blue, and a black Phyrexian Angel 7/7 flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink. When Atraxa Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library for each card type. You may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So I already made a video about this one. I think it's going to be a very popular commander in the format for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a 4-color commander. It's only the second commander we've gotten of this 4-color combination. People like commanders with more colors because it gives them less restrictions. And also, again, we just have a very generically open-ended good commander here. Just the fact that it's a 7/7 commander with flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink makes it so that you could very easily make a Voltron deck with this, no problem. And then your commander's ETB is just added value. Obviously, you could build around that second ability as well to get even more value off of it, blinking your commander and all sorts of stuff like that. This to me is just a commander that I don't even know exactly how you would build around it. To me, it's a 4-color good stuff commander that you could do pretty much anything with. Also turns out it's a great blocker. Also turns out it's gaining you life. Also turns out that it can get in for commander damage as a win. So I think this commander, again, if we're talking about generically good and open-ended, it doesn't get much better than this. So I think it's going to be a really popular commander in the format going forward. But the commanders that I put on this list are the ones that I think are actually really interesting build-arounds and you could do a lot of different things with. Again, as a deck builder, this channel is called EDH Deck Building for a reason because I'm all about building those interesting commander decks. So I picked out the commanders that I think make for interesting build-arounds, which I typically tend to do. So getting to my list, coming in at number 10, Skrelv Defector Might. 1 white mana legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Might, 1/1. So first of all, we have a 1-mana commander. That's significant. Not a lot of those in the format. We also have a artifact creature commander, which is very significant. It's also a mono-white artifact creature. So already we have a lot of unique, interesting things going on here. It's also a Might, which is a brand new creature type in the format as well. So just a ton of new, interesting, unique things going on here. So any artifact creature tribal stuff will work here because your commander is an artifact. I think Abiding Grace is actually a fantastic fit in this deck. In any deck that is white that has a commander that is mana value 1, it's a great fit because it gets your commander back out of the graveyard. So give that some consideration if you're putting this deck together. But what else does it do? Well, it has Toxic 1, which means players dealt combat damage by this creature also get a poison counter. So you are in the poison counter theme. It can't block, which I don't see as a downside at all, because why would you ever want to block with your commander for a number of reasons, not the least of which is this last ability: pay 1 white Phyrexian mana and tap, choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from the color until end of turn and can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So just a lot of really interesting things going on here on this commander. Again, you have an artifact creature that is your commander. It's 1 mana. It has Toxic. You're doing the poison counter theme. You're making it so that your creatures are really hard to block, so you can definitely build into that as well. The hexproof thing is great. You can even just use that as a protection thing, right? You can do it at instant speed. That's the interesting part about this commander, is really you could make a deck that is mono white where you just have a lot of really important creatures in the deck, and this can just be used as a protection option for that creature, right? I have that creature in play. I don't want my opponents to be touching it. Every time they try to remove it with their targeted removal, I just pay 2 life. I don't even need the mana. Whatever color that removal spell is, I give my creature hexproof from it until end of turn. So really is a versatile, interesting commander that I think you could go a lot of different ways with. Coming in at number 9 is Ovika Enigma Goliath. 5 blue, red, Phyrexian Nightmare 6/6 with flying, has ward 3 and pay 3 life. So your opponents are going to have to pay 3 mana and 3 life if they want to target your commander. That's pretty great. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens, where X is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until end of turn. So I know a lot of people might look at this and say, okay, well, we've got lots of commanders that are doing stuff like this already, but I think this is doing a lot of different things all at once and doing it in a little bit of a different way. You're in the non-creature sort of spell slinger theme here with Izzet colors. I mean, I know we have seen this in Izzet colors a lot. It is a non-creature spell, which means you can do enchantments here, you can do artifacts. I think it would be interesting to build this deck so you just don't have any creatures at all, so that every single spell you cast, you're getting the benefit off of your commander. You are creating Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens, which is interesting. So, of course, you're in the token theme here, which you can go that direction. You're also in the Goblin theme, so you can put some Goblin tribal support here as well. I know we have commanders like this in the format already, but this is an interesting take on things that we've already seen before, where you can go in a lot of different directions with it. I think it's a pretty interesting one. Coming in at number 8, Ixhel, Scion of Atraxa. 1 white, black, and a green. Phyrexian Angel 2/5 flying, vigilance, toxic 2. Has corrupted. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters exiles the top card of their library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as lower mana of any color to cast those spells. So this could be a commander that actually does fit in the 99 of a lot of decks if you're doing the poison counter thing already. This to me though is just a really interesting way to go with the whole poison counter theme. Rather than just, I'm trying to give my opponents enough poison counters to kill them as quickly as I can to end the game, this is a more interesting way to go with it if you want to do that theme. Obviously your commander has toxic 2, so you can be giving your opponents those poison counters that way, but you probably want other ways to do it. And of course, there's a lot from this set. And there's also, of course, lots of other ways to give your opponents poison counters as well, whether it be with infect or other ways. So this is sort of a poison counter tribal commander. I think you're getting to exile your opponent's cards and play them. A lot of people like that theme. You are playing cards from exile, so you're actually in that theme as well. There might be some support there for that. I just thought this was an interesting commander and a lot of neat little things you can do in this deck, and it's doing the poison counter theme in a more interesting way. way where I'm not just trying to one-shot my opponents. I'm actually trying to give them poison counters so that I can gain benefit off of it. And maybe even keeping my opponents around is kind of a benefit to me because I'm getting card advantage out of it, right? I just think it's an interesting take on a theme we've already seen before. Coming in at number 7, Kinzu of the Bleak Coven, 4 and a black Phyrexian vampire, 5/4 with flying. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life and exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and has toxic 1. So again, a lot of things going on this card and a lot of different ways you can build around it. You are making token copies, so you're doing the token theme here, although there's not a ton of support in mono black for that. You're also doing the toxic thing, so again, you can do that poison counter thing if you want to. You could put a bunch of creatures in this deck that have evasion, sacrifice them, and create token copies that now have toxic and kill your opponents that way. I really like the ETB theme here because, of course, I have that creature like that Ravenous Chupacabra comes into play, kills an opponent's creature, then I can sacrifice it, get a token copy, get that ETB again. Just really great value there. I know people will say, oh, well, in the sacrifice or recursion theme, you don't want to be exiling those creatures because then you don't get them back, but you're not building this deck as a recursion theme. You're building it as a token copy theme, which is why I think that this card actually, even though it does fit in the 99 of a lot of decks, is better as a commander because, again, in those graveyard themes, you probably don't want to be exiling your creatures. This is probably more a build around where I don't plan on doing any recursion. I'm totally okay with sacrificing those creatures and getting token copies of them. And then again, the added bonus of I get that toxic 1 that I can even build around. Super neat commander, I think. I might go after this one myself. Coming in at number 6, Nyali Sun's Vanguard, 2 red and a white human rebel 3/3. Attacking tokens you control have double strike, and whenever one or more tokens you control attack a player, exile the top card of your library. During any turn you attacked with a token, you may play that card. So very interesting sort of impulse draw they have here. I like the sort of limitation, but at the same time, I see it as an upside, right? Most impulse draw is you exile it and you have to play it this turn, or you have to play it until the end of your next turn. So you have a very small window where you can play that card. Here, I can exile that card and like 5 turns later, all I have to do is attack with a token and now I can play that card if I want to, right? If it's a board wipe, for example, a lot of times you don't want to be playing that board wipe right away. So if you've exiled it, now it's just gone forever. In this situation, now like 5 turns later, when I want to cast that board wipe that I've exiled earlier in the game, I can attack with a token, and then on my second main phase, I can cast that board wipe to clean up the board. So I like the wording there a lot. It's a very interesting take, again, on something that we've already seen a lot, but they're doing it in a very interesting way. Of course, you're in the token theme here, and that's a very open-ended theme. Yes, I suppose you could throw this in decks where you're doing a Boros token theme. I don't know how many of those are out there, or any token theme that has red and white in it. So yeah, this will go in the 99 of some decks, but I think it's a much more interesting build around. Again, you're casting cards from exile, so doing that kind of stuff fits here. Obviously, the token theme here is very open-ended, so there's a lot of different directions you can go with it. You can do those really popular themes like the goblins or the soldiers, which obviously are really popular in red and white colors. You can do no tribe at all and just do completely open-ended token theme here, where I just throw whatever my favorite token creators are in Boros colors. Or you can do a really underwhelming tribe as well. Maybe you want to do Pegasus Tribal. That's a great theme if you want to be creating tokens. There's lots of great token creators for the Pegasus Tribal deck. If you've been looking to make a Pegasus Tribal deck for a long time, now we have a great commander for doing so that is giving you that double strike, but is also giving you card advantage as well. Very interesting and open-ended commander here. Coming in at number 5, Glissa Sunslayer, 1 black and a green Phyrexian Zombie Elf 3/3, first strike and death touch. When Glissa Sunslayer deals combat damage to a player, choose 1. You can draw a card and lose a life, or you can destroy target enchantment, or you can remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. I really like this commander a lot. It has that versatile options ability, right? Which I like to see on my commanders, where I guess you can build around those abilities in certain ways. As I talked about before, really the only build aroundable part of this is the removing counters counters part. Drawing cards and destroying enchantments, of course, you want to be doing in every game, but if you're building around the remove counters part, you really need to draw a card, you can still do that. If your opponent has a really annoying enchantment, you can still do that if you want to, right? Of course, First Strike and Death Touch are a fantastic combination of abilities, making it really easy for your commander to get in for damage. I already built this deck on my channel. If you're interested in this commander, you can check it out. It is essentially removing counters tribal, right? I just put a lot of stuff in there that we want to be removing counters from, and also a lot of other stuff in the deck that will help us with removing counters from our permanents. Really interesting deck I threw together there. Feel free to check it out if you want to. Coming in at number 4, Unctus Grand Metatect. 1 blue legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Videlkin. It's a 2/4 and has other blue creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. Also has other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1, and also has pay 1 blue Phyrexian mana until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors and types. Activate only as a sorcery. So again, we have a commander with a lot of stuff going on, a lot of abilities you can build around. Obviously, you can do artifact creature tribal here, I suppose, because you do have that anthem, although I find just going after a commander or a particular theme for the +1/+1 is not a huge benefit to be doing a tribal theme. That last ability is pretty interesting too. There are some things you could do there, turning your creatures blue or turning your blue creatures into artifacts. But I think the first ability is definitely the one you want to be building around. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. So we are looting here, and there's just a ton you can do there, whether you are putting creatures in your deck that are tapping or putting stuff in your deck like an opposition that is tapping down your creatures to give you another benefit, and then I just get this added bonus off of what I'm already doing in my deck, right? That's the stuff I like to see. You're also in the I draw extra cards theme, right? So anything that's giving you draw triggers is going to be a great fit here. Anything that's giving you discard triggers is going to be great here. And if you have any cards that you want to be chucking in your graveyard, like say a Wonder, for example, that seems like a great card to put in this deck because I can just easily throw it in my graveyard, gives my whole team flying. So there's an absolute ton to build around here just with that first ability, which is what I really like. As has already been pointed out, this guy will go infinite with some cards, in particular a Pheto Alchemist. If you have a creature that is tapping to untap something else, right? So if I have my commander in play and my Pheto Alchemist, I can tap my Pheto Alchemist, which of course will trigger my commander, and then I untap target artifact or creature, and a Pheto Alchemist is going to target itself. So I untap my Pheto Alchemist, then I can obviously continue to do so, and what this of course will do is allow you to essentially draw your entire deck. Now of course you have to discard though, right? So you're not just drawing your whole deck, you're drawing and discarding. This will get you an absolute ton of draw triggers and or discard triggers again if you want to be doing that. Another thing, and probably the best way to use this combo, is I'm looking for a specific card in my deck. I'm just going to be essentially infinitely looting until I get to that very specific card in my deck that I really want. And I'm wondering if this might even be a CEDH commander, which is kind of sad because I think it's a really neat build around, but it is possible for this to become a CEDH commander because of course I can loot through my whole deck until I get the most popular CEDH win con, Thassa's Oracle, and then of course the added bonus is I can just keep on going, looting through my entire deck until I have no cards left, play my Thassa's Oracle and win. How many people are going to be doing that? I don't know. I think it is definitely a possibility that we could see this commander in CEDH, although I do think it is a really interesting build around if you just don't do any of that other stuff, right? Coming in at number 3, Kethek Crucible Goliath, 2 black and a red Phyrexian Beast. 4/4. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card with lesser mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So we sort of have a sacrifice cascade type of effect here. And as I talked about in the spoiler video, it looks like an ability that isn't doing a whole lot on its face, but the more you think about it, the more interesting things you can do with it. And again, I immediately built a deck with this guy because I was coming up with lots of interesting ideas ideas. Already posted that on my channel as well. So if you are interested in this guy, you can go check out that deck tech to see all the interesting things that I did with it. I didn't even do all of the things that you can possibly do with this guy. There's actually a lot, but I definitely did a bunch of different things in that deck that I think makes this guy a really interesting commander. Again, that ability doesn't seem like much, but it actually is a super interesting build around, and there's a lot of different directions you can go with it. This is another commander that I might go after myself. I don't currently have a Rakdos deck, so this guy is definitely enticing me to go in that direction because I really like what he is doing. Coming in at number 2, Vishgraz, the Doom Hive, 2 white, black, and a green, Phyrexian Insect, 3/3, Menace and Toxic 1. When Vishgraz, the Doom Hive, enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. Vishgraz gets +1/+1 for each poison counter your opponents have. So again, another commander that is doing a whole lot of stuff that you can do a whole lot of different things with. And this is a really great Abzan commander. I again talked about this in the spoiler video. I got 2 really interesting Abzan commanders on this list, and Abzan I think is in dire need of some really interesting commanders, because if you checked out my color combinations video, what color combinations people are playing in the format, Abzan was right towards the bottom. It's actually not a very popular color combination in the format, so I think they really needed some good commanders, and we did get a couple here from this set, which is nice. Your commander again is doing the poison counter thing, so you can do that for sure. And I think a lot of people, especially because of that last ability, will probably go after the poison counter or toxic theme here, which you absolutely can do. And again, the proliferate theme works here as well, because of course you can proliferate those poison counters. We're also in a token theme, right? And that to me is the theme that you more so could go after. There's a ton of support in Abzan colors for the token theme, a whole lot, even some more in this set actually. You can do the blinking theme here because your commander has a great ETB ability, right? ETB, create 3 tokens, that's fantastic. Those tokens are again artifact creatures, so you can do something there as well with the artifact creature theme. Any card like Altar of Baal or Hell's Caretaker are going to be phenomenal fits here, because these cards will allow us to get our commander back out of the graveyard by sacrificing one of the tokens that we are making, right? Our commander enters the battlefield, creates 3 tokens, then we can just sacrifice our own commander if it hasn't been removed by some other means, have it go to the graveyard on our upkeep, sacrifice one of those tokens to our Hell's Caretaker, get our commander immediately back and create 3 more tokens, and just repeat the process. I think that's probably the best way to go with this deck. Having your commander enter the battlefield and create 3 creature tokens is a really powerful ability, and there's a lot you can do there. Of course, you can do the Aristocrats theme, you can do just a go wide strategy in general here. There really is a lot you can do with this commander, and I imagine seeing Vishgraz decks in the future, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have completely different decks from each other, because there is a lot of different ways you can go here. Really great commander, I think. But coming in at number 1 for me, and a lot of people are probably going to be surprised by this, is Othari Sun's Glory. 3 red and a white Phoenix 3/3. Flying, lifelink, haste. Whenever Othari Sun's Glory attacks, you get an experience counter, then create a 2/2 red rebel creature token that's tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have, and you can pay 2 red and a white, tap an untapped rebel you control, return Othari from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I kind of surprised myself by putting this guy at number 1. I didn't think it was going to end up there, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, man, I really like this commander. There's a ton you can do with it. There's a lot to build around here, and that's the kind of commanders that I like. This is definitely not going to be the most popular commander from the set, not by a long shot, but I'm going to entice people to go after it here by giving you all the different things you can be doing with this commander, because even though it might not look like much, there's a ton you can be building around here. First off, your commander has lifelink, and not only does it have lifelink, but it is very easily going to be getting in for damage because of course it has evasion and it also has haste. So it's very easy to gain the 3 life off of your commander. So what that means is Well Lost Dreams, I think, is an auto include here, because that just becomes pay up to 3 mana to draw up to 3 cards, right? Anything that triggers on your end step from you gaining life for the turn, which of course is a bunch of of those will also work here because you probably will always be gaining life on your turn. It will be very easy to do so just by connecting with your commander. You don't have to do any other life gain stuff here at all. Just I connect with my commander, I gain that life, and now I get some fantastic trigger on my end step. All that stuff will work here. You're doing the experience counter thing. So another way that you could build this deck, or one of the things you could do with this deck, again, is the proliferate thing by proliferating those experience counters so that you are spitting out more tokens whenever you attack with your commander. So of course, we're in the token theme as well. You can do all of that stuff. You're creating rebel tokens, so you can do rebel tribal as well here. You're in an aggro theme, so you can do some aggro stuff. And of course, that last ability is fantastic because it is cheating commander tax, which is always great to have on your commander. 5 is, it's okay, not a lot for a commander, but I don't really want to pay 7 for my commander. That's getting pretty pricey. And that last ability allows you to just pay 4 and tap an untapped rebel you control. So it would be a good idea to probably throw a few rebels in this deck, ones that actually fit the theme of what you're doing, or even just those changelings will work here as well, obviously, because there are rebels. Your commander is creating rebels, but I would probably throw a few more in here just to ensure that I can always be getting my commander out of the graveyard. I mean, even if someone just board wipes and kills all creatures, I'm holding a rebel in my hand, let my commander go to the graveyard. On my turn, I cast that rebel, and then I can immediately use my commander's ability by paying 4 and tapping that untapped rebel that I just cast to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tap. I actually think this is a fantastic commander. I wasn't super blown away by it when I first saw it. I thought it was interesting, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, man, there's so many themes and so many interesting things going on here, and there's so many different directions you can go with this commander. I actually think this is the most interesting commander from this entire set, and I'm kind of hoping it's going to be a popular one in the format. Only time will tell. But that is it. That is my list of the top 10 commanders from Phyrexia All Will Be One. Again, for me, I'm looking for interesting, build-aroundable, and even though there wasn't a ton of super interesting commanders from this set, we definitely got a few. I like commanders that, for one, are doing stuff that we haven't really ever seen before, but also are open-ended enough, without being just generically good, are open-ended enough so that when I come across that commander, I don't necessarily know exactly what that person is doing. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see a commander where I know exactly what that person is doing in their deck before we even start the game. I want to see a commander where I'm like, I wonder what this guy's doing here. I'm kind of curious to see. And the next time I see that commander, maybe I'll see a completely different build. That's the kind of stuff I like to see in the format. I know people will disagree with me, and I know people will disagree on my take that I think there are a lot of uninteresting, generic, boring commanders in this set. And I realize again that it is not meant for commander. That's perfectly fine. I'm just giving my critique on commander design in general here because this is a commander channel. I'm giving my take on Magic cards based off of the commander format. That's what this whole channel is for. It's for building decks in commander, right? So that is the perspective that I am coming from. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What was your favorite commander from this set? Did I miss any really great ones here? I'm sure I did. Let me know what you think, but that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.